VIII. Think again. Let's start with what Henry became in his final years. Forget the image of the athletic, handsome young king. That version of him did not last. As he got older, his health completely collapsed. By the end of his life, Henry was nearly 400 pounds. His waist, 54 inches around. That's wider than most people are tall. But it wasn't just the size. His legs were covered in open, infected wounds, massive ulcers that never healed. They used constantly. The smell. People said you could smell him from rooms away. His own servants dreaded going near him. Some even drew straws to decide who had to help dress him. Each day. That's how bad it was. Most people just remember the basic 6 wives, started the Church of England, got mad when the Pope said no. But the real Henry VIII, he was something else entirely. Behind the portraits and royal titles was a man so broken, so paranoid, and so grotesquely self-indulgent, it's honestly hard to believe how long he managed to hold the throne. He was not just a tyrant. He was a human disaster physically, mentally, emotionally, and his personal life was pure horror. From the way his body literally fell apart while he was still alive, to the torment he inflicted on the people closest to him, this isn't the Henry you read about in school. So buckle in, because the truth about England's most infamous king, it's a lot darker than anyone ever tells you. And here's something not many people know. In 1536, Henry had a serious jousting accident. He was knocked unconscious for 2 hours. Back then, that was practically a death sentence. Modern doctors believe that head injury could be caused lasting brain trauma, explaining the drastic shift in his personality. He became volatile, angry, suspicious of everyone. Some experts even think he had Cushing's syndrome, which would explain the rapid weight gain, the ulcers, the mood swings. But no one back then would have dared bring it up. Telling the king he was sick. That could cost you your life. And things got worse. Toward the end, he could not control his own bodily functions. Special chairs had to be brought everywhere, just in case. This was the most powerful man in England, unable to walk, unable to clean himself, and unable to stop his own body from literally decaying around him. We've all heard the line, divorce, beheaded. Died, divorce, beheaded. Survived, but those quick facts barely touch what these women actually went through. And Boleyn, for example, she was not just executed. Henry had her framed. He tortured a musician into confessing to an affair. Then he made and watched as 5 men, including her brother, were executed before her own death. Imagine standing there, knowing you're next, and watching innocent people die because your husband was consumed by paranoia. Catherine Howard, she was basically still a teenager when she married Henry, when he found out she had past relationships. He did not just end the marriage, he made it a law that anyone marrying the king had to reveal their entire sexual history. That law was literally written to punish her. Catherine of Aragon spent her last years isolated, banned from seeing her own daughter, while Henry spread rumors she had gone mad. She died alone, writing letters to him that he never even opened. And of Cleves. She was so scared of him, she happily signed an annulment agreement just to stay alive. She even thanked him for not killing her. And Jane Seymour, the so-called lucky one. She died giving birth to Henry's only legitimate son, and Henry started looking for a new wife just 9 days after she was buried. These women did not just suffer, they were trapped in a system where leaving meant dying, and standing up for yourself could destroy your entire family. Henry treated them like chess pieces in his power games. And the worst part, there was no way out. Let's talk about his eating habits, because they weren't just excessive, they were almost ritualistic. Henry consumed around 5,000 calories a day. That's double what an active adult male should eat, and this man could barely stand. He had to eat entire roasted pigs, whole chickens, fish, pastries, breads, and gallons of wine every day. But it gets weirder. He believed certain foods had powers. He thought swans made him more graceful, deer meat made him a better hunter, oysters improved his performance in the bedroom. So, he binged on those foods constantly, like they were medieval superfoods. And because he was terrified of being poisoned, every single meal had to go through multiple testers. He made them wait half an hour after tasting just to see if anyone dropped dead before he'd even touch the plate. His meals were like theatrical performances. Dozens of servants, hundreds of dishes, and hours spent just watching him eat. Meanwhile, basic vegetables like turnips and barley, he banned them, not because they weren't healthy, because they were peasant food. The irony is, those might have helped him live longer, but Henry wasn't interested in health. He believed his royal blood made him immune to consequence even when his body was clearly falling apart. As his health declined, so did his grip on reality. Henry didn't just worry about betrayal, he obsessed over it. He slept with crossbows beside his bed and knives under his pillows. Armed guards stood in his room while he slept. He had secret tunnels built into every palace so he could escape if assassins came. He had spy holes installed in walls, even listening devices in meeting rooms. No conversation was safe. But the truly terrifying part, he created a network of spies to spy on his other spies. Nobody knew who to trust. Say the wrong thing to the wrong person, and you could be executed. The court was filled with fear. People were turning on each other just to stay alive. He even had his own children watched. He thought Mary and Elizabeth, his daughters, were plotting against him. They were just kids. By the end, people were being imprisoned or killed just because Henry had a dream they betrayed him, or because someone whispered they might someday. He turned his court into a prison, ruled by suspicion, where one misstep could cost you your head. But the truly terrifying part, he created a network of spies to spy on his other spies. Nobody knew who to trust. Say the wrong thing to the wrong person, and you could be executed. The court was filled with fear. People were turning on each other just to stay alive. He even had his own children watched. He thought Mary and Elizabeth, his daughters, were plotting against him. They were just kids. By the end, people were being imprisoned or killed just because Henry had a dream they betrayed him, or because someone whispered they might someday. He turned his court into a prison, ruled by suspicion, where one misstep could cost you your head. You'd think the nightmare would end when he died. But Henry's final act was somehow just as disturbing. In his last weeks, he could not walk. Servants had to wheel him around on custom-built chairs. His leg wounds were so infected that pieces of skin and flesh would fall off as he was moved. Staff followed behind him, cleaning up the trail he left. When he finally passed, the smell was unbearable. Even his doctors, used to the horrors of medieval medicine, had to leave the room to throw up. They wrapped him in lead sheets, sealed him in wood, and hoped for the best. But it was not enough. On the way to his funeral, the gases building up inside his corpse caused the coffin to explode. That's not a metaphor. It burst open. His decomposing body sprayed across the hearse. The procession had to stop so servants could clean up buckets of what was left of the king. There are even reports that dogs licked up the mess from the road. The man who once ruled by divine right ended up scattered across the dirt like garbage. They had to dig a massive grave just to fit his bloated body inside. Even then, the ground kept collapsing under the weight. And for years afterward, people said they heard strange noises from the tomb. Some said it was a ghost. Others said it was just more gas escaping from his ever-rotting body. Several of the servants who handled his corpse died weeks later, probably from infections picked up just by touching him. So, that's the real Henry VIII. Not a regal statesman, not a charming king. A man who lost control of his mind, his body, and his kingdom. Who turned on everyone, wives, friends, even his own children. A man so consumed by his own fears and appetite that he basically rotted alive. He may have changed history, but the legacy he left behind, it's a warning about power, about ego, and about what happens when no one around you is brave enough to say no. If you thought history was boring, think again. Because the real stories, they're worse than fiction. And trust me, there's plenty more where this came from. If this story made you see history in a whole new light, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications.